Hey, back with another tutorial. Last time I showed you how to make an object that just spun and you could grab onto it. But there's so many other things you can do with spinning objects, and especially make these cool obstacles. You might notice or recognize this obstacle from my latest level and this obstacle from my very first level. And the stuff you can do with spinning objects and how you can make them into fun obstacles is just virtually limitless possibilities. And you can really use stuff like this to make just really fun levels to really add to your workshop creations. So I'm going to go over how I made stuff like that in this tutorial. First, I'm just going to really only make this obstacle, and from the principles that I go over in making that one, you will be able to make all of these other ones in your own time. So we're just going to make that the very simple one to get the concepts in your head. So first, opening Pro Builder, and I'm just going to make a sphere. And this time I'm okay that it has just the level 1 of subdivisions, but I'm going to make its radius just 0.5, make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to go ahead and build that and put it in the center of its platform. I think that's the center. Oh well, close enough. So one thing that's annoying sometimes is when you build these Pro Builder objects, the center of the manipulators here is not in the center of the object, which sometimes gets really annoying. So there's a sandy button that's called center pivot, and clicking that will set the pivot to the very center of the object that you're working with. And it just makes it a lot easier. Something that's really important when you start making complicated levels is keeping everything really organized here in the hierarchy. So you can see this is all in one object, this obstacle is all in one object, that obstacle is all in one object, and that actually becomes very important, not just for your sake in keeping it organized, but in having everything move correctly. It needs to be organized correctly as well. So for this, to make my spinning obstacle here, the second one I'm making for you guys, I'm going to right click and hit create empty, and then this empty game object, I'm going to move it into the level, and this is going to be my new spinning obstacle. And then I'm just going to place that sphere that I made into that empty game object. And that way, everything I'm going to be making for this obstacle is going to be put inside of this new spinning obstacle game object. Okay, just for the aesthetics, I'm going to make an axle again. I'm going to put 0.2, 10 sides is fine, and height of 1 is okay. I'm going to build that. Put this new cylinder in the game object. I'm going to just put it right in the center, and then move it into the floor. Makes a nice little axle there for the thing to spin on. What I'm actually going to do here though is I'm going to unclick the mesh collider, because for no reason would anyone actually end up grabbing this little black cylinder, and so it doesn't need a collider. And often, I mean, not in all situations, but in some situations, having that collider for an object you don't need them to touch can mess up your objects. So I'm just going to unclick that to make it easier. I'm going to turn this blue, make it look nice. Okay, and I'm going to make the arm of what I want spinning around. And so I'm just going to start with a normal cube. Again, the pivot is in an annoying space, so I'm just going to center the pivot right into the middle of it. And then I'm going to move that cube. Let's see where it's easier. Right into the middle of it. There, it should be centered around that now. And then I'm going to use the scale tool to scale this to how I want it to look for the swinging part of this obstacle. Alright, that should be big enough. it's not quite in the middle yet, so I'm going to move it just a titch to the right. There we go. Make that different color just so it looks nice. So first off, make this a mover, make the collider convex, and then put in my hinge joint. You'll notice the axle is off to the side, and so I need to, instead of making an X, make it a Y axis. And then in this case it doesn't matter, but a lot of times you'll want the anchor to be right in the middle of the object, like that. So I'm going to go ahead and set all of these to 0. It doesn't matter in this case, but in a lot of cases for spinning objects it will. So usually it's a good idea to set all those to 0 if you just want a simple static spinning object. Okay, I'm going to turn on the motor, set the velocity to, I don't know, 150, 500,000 for the force, and that should get this sphere spinning. To get the arm moving with it, I'm just going to label this arm so it's clear. You just have to make it a child of that object. So I moved it into the sphere, and now it will move with it. So if I hit play, you should see the sphere moving with the arm. Well, right now it's not. So I'm actually going to go back and see what I didn't do right. Okay, 2 things. Not convex there, and I didn't change it to a mover in the Pro Builder entity component. Okay, now we should be firing on all the cylinders with this moving obstacle. Yep, there we go. Make sure it can collide with us. Oh no. Okay, so here's a good lesson. It is colliding with us partially, but it's not doing everything we want because it's not pushing us around. It's overall just kind of glitchy in the way it works. The reason for this is, like I said in the last video, oh wait. Okay, I'm going to add a rigid body. That's not what I wanted. Am I just doing this completely wrong? Why does this one work better? Okay, sorry. It took me a moment to troubleshoot what I was doing wrong. The problem here is with the rigid body of not the arm, because I actually do not want this to have a rigid body. Making it have a rigid body will force it to have its own physics, when I don't want it to have its own like gravitational physics. I want it to just obey the same physics as the sphere that it's attached to. The sphere's rigid body, however, the mass is too low. So I'm just going to set that to 500. And now, hopefully, the portion that is spinning will interact better with my character. Because like I said in the last video, even though I'm not picking this up or moving it, the mass of the object is very important when it comes to human fall flat physics. So there we can see, just upping the mass of the sphere that's holding the arm, it fixed all the glitchy physics we had going on with it just passing right through us. Okay, I would edit that out, but I actually think it's a good display of troubleshooting how the mass really does matter when it comes to the physics of the objects you're working with. And using this principle of having a spinning object and then making other objects children of that can open up the possibilities of all these different obstacles that I've made. And you can see it doesn't even have to be touching what I made spinning. I can put one up there, I can put one over here to the side, one over there. As long as they're all children of this object and they're put in that hierarchy in that order, when I press play, all of them will be moving with the sphere as if they are attached to it. And so, as you can imagine, you can come up with some really wild and crazy obstacles using stuff like this. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any specific questions or different tutorials you want me to do, just leave it in the comments. Thank you.